Hello, fourth graders. This is Mrs. Holtai, and this is a recording for our class on Friday, November the 6th. So happy Friday to you. Now we're going to talk first here about, first you need to take your facts quiz if you have not done so already. It is over 8s today. We're going to continue taking facts quizzes every day. In fact, you need to prepare for the time to get less very soon. Maybe even Monday, you will have less time to take the facts quiz. We've been giving you 4 minutes online for typing. It's been 3 minutes in class, and so we'll drop it down to 3 minutes for online folks to give you extra time to type, and in school folks will have 2 minutes. Okay, so you can prepare for that. Something that we have been discussing about our facts quiz is that each question is 2.5 points off for each one that you miss. Okay, so if you miss 2 questions, it would be 2.5 times 2. Now, we have not covered multiplying with fractions. Let me make this decimal point a little larger. We have not covered multiplying with decimal points in 4th grade, but let's go over this so you can figure out how your grade is arrived at. So 2.5 times 2. Well, 2 times 5 is 0. We write the 0 down, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 more is 5. Okay, so this is the number of points taken off because you missed 2 questions. So the total score, the highest score that you can make is 100, so we would subtract 5 from 100 and you would get a grade of 95. But let's look what happens if you only miss 1. If you miss 1 question, it's just 2.5 points off for that 1. Okay? With 100, if you need a decimal point, it's just behind or just to the right of the last 0, the 0 in the 1's place. So you'd have to add a 0 into the 10ths place because you need to subtract 5. So we would borrow from here, and this would become a 9, and we borrow from here, and this would become a 9 also. So we have 10 tenths, which is the same thing as 1, but 10 tenths minus 5 tenths would give us 5 tenths. And then 9 minus 2 is 7. And then we would have 9 left over. So your grade would be 97.5. It would be rounded up to 8. So 98. The 97 would be, the 5 would round the 7 up to an 8. So your grade would be 98. We don't put 97.5 in a grade book of any kind. Okay, if you missed 8 questions, let's see how that works. 5 times 8 is 40. Put the 0 there. I carry my 4. 2 times 8 is 16, and 4 more is 20. Now the rule when you're multiplying with decimals, you look at after you get your answer, before you put the decimal place in, you need to look and observe how many digits are in a decimal place. In this case, we have 1 digit sitting in a decimal place. We have 1 digit sitting to the right of the decimal. And so we place our 0 where we have 1 digit sitting in the decimal place. And so it would be 20 points off. And 100 minus 20 is 80. And one question that I posed to the class yesterday was, how many would someone miss if they made 50? Well, you have to think about how many questions are on a facts quiz. There are 40 questions. How many would someone have missed if they made a 50? You're thinking about it? How would you consider how to do that? There's more than one way to reach the answer. You could just keep multiplying 2.5 until you get 50. You could also think about it a different way. If you have 40 questions, if you missed half of them, you would get a 50. And half of 40 is 20. So if you made a 50, you would have to miss 20 questions. That's just an example of how to use, how to think and use fractions in a little bit different way. And we practice multiplying with decimals. You won't do that until you get into 5th grade, but you may have a little head start here. However many decimals you have in the question, in the problem, you would have that many digits sitting in the decimal in the answer. Okay, let's review a smidget about yesterday. Yesterday we practiced adding and subtracting fractions, and I had people to do this in their math journals, just like I asked you to do. And we noticed that when we added, as long as the denominators are the same, number, you can just add the numerators and get your answer. And we did that. And we became aware that 2/5 plus 3/5 equals 5/5, and 5/5 equal 1. Just like 3/12 plus 9/12 equal 12/12, and that also equals 1, because 12 divided by 12 is 1, because this line here means divided by. And then I pose a question that I would like you to think about. What about adding these numbers, or these fractions? 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus another 1/3. Okay, what are we gonna come up with? Well, if we play by the same rules, which you should, about adding fractions, our denominator, we already know, is going to be 3, because that's the denominator for each of these unit fractions, and we just add straight across, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4/3. But you also are able to think about this a little different way. If you think about 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, well, that is 3/3 right there. And 3/3 equals 1. And then we have this 1/3 kind of extra, so our answer would be 1 and 1/3. Well, 4/3 and 1 and 1/3 are equal to each other. And we're going to be exploring that later on next week, or maybe the beginning of the next week. Okay, but we will begin to understand that. I just want to pose the idea to you so you can think about it a little bit. Okay, starting with today's work, we're going to do this together and the back side together. You can look on your PDFs. I'm not sure how that's working out for you. Let me make a note here. The school is having trouble with internet. It also seems that forms is messing up. I first asked if anybody else's forms were changing after or while they're loading up, and I was told no. And then there are some other teachers that are saying yes. I put in a form, I'm very careful that it's correct and complete, and then it loads up and somehow it's being changed. So I'm sure I'm making a few mistakes, but some of them I'm being very careful that it's correct when I upload it, and somehow it's getting shifted around. So we're trying to figure that out, but we have some problems we're trying to solve before we get to that. So let's look at this PDF that you have, or you can watch with me on the video. I'd like you to do that. Maybe you can have them side by side. Maybe you have to switch back and forth. I don't know your circumstances. But let's look at this. It says fraction fields. Look at the shaded areas and write in the top number of the fraction. So we're concerning ourselves with the numerator, because the numerator is the top number and the denominator is the bottom number, or the down number, to help us remember. So we want to count the shaded areas. That's what we're counting as the part of the fraction that we're considering, or that we're concerned with. So we have 3 parts. So 3 is in the denominator, and 2 parts are shaded. Okay. If you want to, let's do the first row, then I can set you free to do it, then we can check. So we have 3 parts, and all 3 parts are shaded. So 3 over 3, and that really would equal 1. So here we have 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But only 1, 2, 3 are shaded. Okay. If you want to complete this in your math journal, just write the answer down and pause the video and do that, and come back and check your work. you can do that. I'll move it up in case you are writing it correctly. Sorry, I'm not sure why that happened then. Okay, so here are the fractions if you want, that's fractions, pardon me, here are the diagrams. If you want to write those answers down and pause the video to do that, that will be fine. Okay, and here you can check your work. We did the first row, and here are the next two rows. You can check and see how you're doing. Okay, this has 5 parts and one of them is shaded, and this has 5 parts and 4 of them are shaded. All right, now let's turn to the back side, and we're going to work this together. Okay. It says fractions, and we're talking about food. We're talking about waffle sections. It says shade 1/8 of each waffle section. So here it is in a square, and here it is in a circle. So if you notice there's some little squares like are on a waffle, but this square has been divided into 8 divisions, and it asks you to shade one of them. And here it's a round waffle. I almost said it's a pizza, but you're going to shade in 1/8 of that. So think through each of those, and if you are able to print the sheet out, you can go ahead and fill it out. But let's go over these answers together. And we're going to make some additional connections here, please. So, number 10, number 11, it says shade 5/8 of each waffle section. Well, 5 of 8, if you notice, well, 4 of 8 makes 1/2. So this is a little more than 1/2, which would be 4/8, 5/8. And here it's easy to see too. We have half shaded and one more section of 1/8 in addition to the 4/8 to have 5/8. Okay, here's the 2/8. So here's the 2 parts shaded, and here's the 2 parts. Now notice how else you could name this fraction. We have 2/8. It might show up easier on the round one because we have worked with this fraction using circles yesterday and the day before. You might say, hey, this is 1/4. Okay, and you would be right, but it also equals 2/8 because 1/4 and 2/8 are called equivalent fractions. Now if you think about it, you'll be able to see it over here on the square one too. Okay, number 13. It says shade in 6/8 of each waffle section. When we do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can shade all of this. Now what fraction do you think you can also see in here? Well, 3/4 is equal to 6/8. Okay, see how we get that? This is divided into 8 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, but if we look at it as 4 parts, a 4 would be in the denominator, and we have 3 of those parts shaded. So this is a visual example of how 3/4 is equal to 6/8. Okay, 14 says shade 3/8. We have 3/8 shaded, 3 of 8, so it's a little bit less than half, because half we can visually see here. So if we're going to shade 3/8 of this, it's a little less than half. What about number 15? 7/8. Well, then only if the waffle is being divided into 8 sections, that only leaves one section that is not shaded. So 7/8 is a little bit more than 3/4 or 3/4, because this would be 3/4. It's 1/8 more than 3/4. Okay, 7/8. Number 16 is dealing with asking us to shade in 4/8. So here is 4/8. I bet you can recognize a fraction that this is equivalent to. Yes, 1/2. 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. And the last one here, number 17, asks us to shade 8/8 of each waffle section. And that would be the entire waffle. It's like if you're putting syrup on 8/8 of your waffle, you would cover your waffle in syrup. Okay? So the takeaway that I want you to have from this is that there are fractions that are equivalent to each other that are written with different denominators, and the numerator would be different too. 1/4 is equal to 2/8, and you can see that through the picture here. And 3/4 is equal to 6/8. Now, what I'm asking you to do for our grade is a sheet that looks like this with circles. It says equivalent fraction circle sheet, and it has a 1 here. And you have 1 through 10. And then it has a sheet 2 that uses a number line. And it kind of looks like a, you can see it looks like a number line. My mind went blank, but I still was talking. Sorry about that. Okay, let's do a couple of these together, and I think you'll get the hang of it. Number 1, I notice that this goes down a column. Number 1, 2, 3, 4. And the second column, you have to fill in both numbers. Okay, so let's do number 1 and then number 6 together so you'll have an idea. It says, if two fractions are equivalent, it means that they are equal or represent the same amount. Use the diagrams to work out the equivalent fractions. Okay, so we're going to use these pictures to help us. Here, this diagram, or this drawing, is divided into 2 parts. So the 2 represents the number of parts that we have. One side is shaded, so a 1 goes in the numerator. So, how many parts is this circle divided into? Well, it's divided into 4. How many parts of the 4 are shaded? 2. So on number 1, the correct answer choice on the form is 2. Okay, you need number 6. How many parts is our whole, in this case a circle, how many parts is this circle divided into? 1, 2, 3, 4. So our denominator, the down number, is 4. How many parts are shaded? That would be 3. Okay. How many parts shaded? The bottom number is how many parts. If that helps you. And that's a really bad S, isn't it? Okay, if you find yourself getting a little confused, come back to what we have completed and get your mind to thinking about this correctly. How many parts do you have? 1, 2, 3. How many parts are shaded? 1. Okay. Now, the second page, there's 26 questions in all. The second page asks you to use this number line to complete the questions. And let's do number 11 together. Number 11 says, if you have 1/2 on the number line, I guess we should take a few moments and look at the number line. The first one at the top, the number line is divided, all the number lines start at 0 and end at 1. So we're just talking about the space on a number line between 0 and 1. 1/2 is in the middle. So from this point to here is 1/2 of the distance between 0 and 1. The second one here, we have 0 and 1, and it's divided into thirds. Here's 1/3, here's another third, and here's the final third. So the distance from here to here is 1/3 of the distance from 0 to 1. If you look at the fourths, it's divided into fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it takes 2, here's 1, and here's the second one to get this far. Then it takes one more. If you're starting from 0, 1, 2, 3 fourths, and when you get here to 1, that would be 4 fourths, and that equals 1. And the 6th, 8ths, and 12ths are set up the same way. You have this number from 0 to 1 is divided into 6 sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This space from the 0 to the 1/6 is 1/6 of the distance from 0 to 1. When you get to 5/6, the next is 6/6, and that would equal 1. Okay, let's see if we can use these to work on a couple. Number 11 says 1/2. So here is 1/2. And where are the 6th? Well, here's the 6th. So the 1/2 and the 3/6 line up. So 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. Okay, so give yourself some time to think about how this is working. Let's take another one. Let's take number 21. 9/12. Well, let's go find 9/12. Well, here's our 12ths. Go all the way over to 9/12. Okay, it's helpful if you use two hands, and we're comparing it to the fourths. Okay, here's the fourths. Well, here's 1/4. Here's 2/4. Well, that's equal to 1/2. It's also equal to 3/6. But we need to concern ourselves with 9/12, and look, right above there is 3/4. So 3/4 and 9/12 are equivalent to each other. Okay, you're going to use the chart, you're going to use the number lines to find the answer. Now, we won't always use a number line or I can't remember what the book calls it. We drew them when we had multi-step addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. Okay, but thinking about them as a number line is better for us. Okay, so use these number lines to help you answer the questions. If you want to do one more together, 6/12 equal how many 8s? Well, where is 6/12? Well, here is 6/12. Well, the 8s is right above that, so that would be 4 8s. Okay? Thank you for paying attention during the video. We're just going to do the best we can. If something messes up on you, I will go back and try to take care of it. I mean, I will take care of it. But our computers were stuck for part of the day today, so I haven't even looked at much online things today. Okay, I hope you're having a great Friday, and I hope you're getting ready for a nice, pleasant weekend. Think about equivalent fractions. Think about places where you use fractions. Think about different areas of everyday life where fractions come into play. And we'll talk about that a bit on Monday. Okay? Have a good weekend. Thank you, fourth graders. Bye.